everybody, welcome back to Make Sense of Math. I am Michelle and I am so glad you are here. If your students ever say math is boring, then this video is for you. I'm going to talk about 5 strategies to keep your math students engaged and excited about math and without a lot of prep for you. Okay, so this first strategy is probably something you've heard before, and that is to make it hands-on. Get your students doing math with manipulatives. You can be using algebra tiles, integer chips, get out the rulers, get out the protractors. Even using whiteboards over paper sometimes can really engage your students. I remember my first year, I think it was my first year of teaching, I was doing an activity where I was showing students how the angles of a triangle equal 180 degrees. And so I got out a piece of paper, I made a triangle, I ripped off at the edges, and I showed them how it made a straight line like 180 degrees. And my school director was in there doing like an evaluation of me that day. And she's like, that was a really cool way you showed that, but next time have your students do it. Have your students get out and make a triangle, have them rip off the corners. And I was like, oh yeah, duh. But any way you can get your students doing the math rather than you just showing it is going to be so much more engaging for them. Okay, number 2 is to get your students moving. You are teaching human beings that like to move, that like to be active. Get them rotating around the classroom doing stations, or set up a gallery walk where they have to walk around and do different problems around the room, or even just getting into groups and getting out of groups. Get them moving, get them working together will really engage your students. And also with that same concept, any way you can incorporate games into your classroom or challenges, even if it's a challenge against themselves, that will motivate your students to do the math. Strategy 3 is to connect it to real life. There's some parts of math that are a little bit more easy to connect with real life. Integers, I think, is a great one. You can do it with, I love to use golf, temperatures, bank accounts, just money in general. Equations aren't that hard either if you're applying it like word problems. Statistics can be a great one that's easy to apply. If you run into a problem where you're like, I'm not sure how to apply this to real life, just somehow throw in like pop culture, anything that can even if it's not directly related to the math, maybe like the problem is related to something that they can relate to. That's going to keep them engaged and more likely to participate in the math. Strategy number 4 is to let them talk. Productively, of course. You don't want your students just chatting. And this is something that takes learning. Teach, like the first 2 weeks of when I taught school was a week of teaching routines and practices. And so we practice, what does it look like to talk with your neighbor about the math? What does it look like and sound like to talk with your small group about math? And what does it look like and sound like when you're talking with a large group about math? And it takes practice, and I had math prompts up on my wall to remind them and that they would use throughout the entire year. Stuff like, I agree with you because, or I disagree with you because, or this is why I believe that, or just, different ways to get them talking. And once you get your students knowing how to talk about math, it's amazing how they sound like mathematicians. Okay, strategy number 5 is to mix up the format. If you have your same format of going through class every class, it's going to be really boring. Students are going to come there. If they just come there, maybe take notes and practice, maybe they have a quiz. Like, mix it up. Do stations, do review activities, get them moving. Another thing I'd like to do is to throw problems at them, and then we do the notes second. Like, they do the struggle first, and then the notes come at the end of the classroom. So it's kind of like it's flipped. All these things are great ways to get your students just to kind of mix up the format of the classroom. Okay, so there you have it. Those are 5 strategies that I think are going to help engage your students in math. Number 1 is to use manipulatives. 2, get your students moving around the classroom. Number 3, connect it to real life. Number 4, get your students talking productively. And number 5 is mix up the format of your classroom. Thanks for coming today. Have a good one.